A powerful voice is sounding the alarm on decades of foreign policy missteps. Retired Lieutenant Colonel Alexander Vindman, former National Security Council official and key figure in the first Trump impeachment, has just released a searing new book, The Folly of Realism: How the West Deceived Itself About Russia and Betrayed Ukraine. And he joins us now. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me on.
Yes. So you titled your book, The Folly of Realism. What does that phrase mean to you, and why did you feel compelled to write this book now?
So it's a bit of a wonky title, realism. It's this idea that each state in the international system pursues its interests maximally, and everything becomes a transaction. And the folly is what we have right now, frankly, with the Trump administration. Everything is a transaction. Doesn't make a difference what happened before it. The subtitle might be more telling. It's how the West deceived itself about Russia and betrayed Ukraine. It's exactly what we see playing out on our screens daily with this very wishy-washy, back and forward, will we support Ukraine, will we not, inconsistency. But it's a pattern that existed throughout the past 6 administrations, just amplified in a particularly dangerous way under this new Trump administration.
Mm-hmm. And you argue that 6 U.S. administrations enabled Russia's aggression. Can you walk us through those key moments where you believe the West went wrong?
So in the first instance of Ukraine achieving independence in 1991, just months before, George H.W. Bush traveled to Ukraine and gave this infamous speech where he told the Ukrainians who had been struggling for their own state for centuries, relax, don't worry about it. You don't need that right now. Don't race towards independence. It's dangerous. Of course, the Ukrainians didn't take his counsel, like they didn't, fighting 2 different revolutions and not, bending as Zelensky did in the Oval Office to President Trump. That's kind of their temperament. But that was one of the key moments. Then denuclearization, when they were facing this future threat of Russia coming back, the U.S. put pressure on them to give up their nuclear weapons. Orange Revolution, when they pivoted hard towards the West, the U.S. Could have supported them more fully. 2014, the U.S. Could have sanctioned Russia and tried to counsel Russia that this was a foolish policy that would be dangerous and disruptive towards the world. Didn't do any of these things. This is across multiple administrations. Again, the Trump administration is not learning the lessons of the past and amplifying them in a particularly dangerous way. In this case, they're not just being maybe a little bit more wishful thinking about Russia, catering too much to Russia, not supporting our allies in the region. They're actually going all in this appeasement, accommodation approach, which is very dangerous.
And in years past, Russia and Putin have long been considered enemies. Trump has, though, made a point of really leaning towards Putin. Why do you think that is?
I think that he has a deep animus towards Ukraine. He blames Ukraine for the first impeachment, which was embarrassing, which I precipitated by reporting his abuse of power. I think he also has a deep affinity for strongmen. He wants to wield power in the same kind of way. Those are then he buys into this idea of Russian greatness, not American greatness and what the power we wield around the world, but Russian greatness. It's this large country, massive nuclear arsenal, conventional forces. All these things drive him to put Russia first as opposed to our other allies, or understand that we should be supporting NATO, this powerful alliance, in order to balance against Russian aggression. So even that doesn't fully explain why he's so full in on Russia. You would think that he would want to end the war, and by doing so, he'd want to put pressure on Russia. He doesn't do that. So some of the actions are inexplicable. I don't even have an answer for those things.
Yeah, and you mentioned this, a household name during the first Trump impeachment. How has that experience really shaped your public voice and your mission today, would you say?
I've made a commitment after the Trump administration pulled me into the public fray and attacked me. I found it impossible to stay in the military and charted my own course. This book is actually my doctoral dissertation rewritten for the general audience. I wanted the public to understand how we got here. It wasn't just about Trump or Obama or Biden. It was a whole series of mistakes along the way. So I write and think about policies. I run a think tank now called the Institute for Informed American Leadership. I help get veterans elected on the Democratic ticket because I think that they are the folks that are going to carry this nation forward and stick by their oaths of office. So that's where my commitments are. Advance public servants, advance values-based leadership, and advance U.S. national security. That's what I focus on.
Yeah, and this is personal for you. You were born in Ukraine, so it's not just professional. So for the U.S. as a whole, how important is it, would you say, for a support with Ukraine?
It's critically important. For me, I came here when I was 4, so everything is about the U.S. and U.S. security. Yes, there's a kind of human element to supporting this country that's fighting for its independence. That's part of our value set, but there's also a keen interest. If we think about what's unfolded in the Middle East, it's actually a byproduct of this geopolitical earthquake that's transformed geopolitics and will continue to have impact throughout the next decades. We wouldn't have a situation in which Israel were successful in attacking Iran, or the U.S. stepped in and bombed Iran's nuclear arsenal, if we didn't have Russia bogged down in Ukraine. We wouldn't have the Assad regime fall into Syria if the Putin regime wasn't bogged down in this tragic war between Russia and Ukraine. It's going to be what defines geopolitics going forward. The outcomes there will determine whether China is aggressive in the Pacific and pursues Taiwan through military force or not. This is the most important geopolitical challenge that the U.S. faces, and the U.S. is not living up to its either values or interest obligations to support this ally.
Wow, so interesting to have you here today, and thank you so much for your time. We know you're very busy.